It's the playoffs, baby. It's Super Wild Card Week, baby. We're here for another edition of 4th and 4. Zach Kyleman in here, guys, as part of the Belly Up Sports pregame show lineup. Joining me as I'll bring them on into the camera settings here, thanks to our off-screen producer. I got Kelsey Coyne and DJ Stewart, both of my pals from High Low Sports joining. Guys, thanks for tuning. They're coming on in here as we are now starting our wild card show. Super Wild Card Weekend's already partially underway as we're doing this on a Sunday. You already saw two of the games yesterday night, but we get a little bit of a sense now of what the divisional round will look like, and we got some news to talk about from coaches, other various things, and it's still a loaded show. A lot of stuff to talk about, even with a more reduced amount of games to talk about.
It's a properly labeled weekend. We've seen a super performance and a wild game, so I think super wild card's a good way to describe just the two games we've seen so far.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it was a wild one in Buffalo. I got to say, that was the wild west, if you will, for a team that circles the wagons as well as the Buffalo Bills do. Well, I didn't know they could circle the scoreboard at the same time.
Let's talk about that stuff fresh in our minds while we're at it, since it's the most recent things here. Quarter number one's kicking off with, our own kickoff part. Usually this is a news segment. We'll start, though, with just some kind of initial thoughts on recapping yesterday's games. So we had one thriller, as we were talking about, with, Raiders going over to Cincinnati. Final drive interception that led Cincinnati to have its first playoff win in 32 years. The other was, game 3 of a series that I think Buffalo was just ready to be over with and took the most of having not only home field advantage and used to the cold like New England is, but they finally have become the big brother in that division. And I think it just permanently solidifies that Sean McDermott's crew is ready to play for years to come.
I'll just go ahead and go first. First thing I'm going to start with is Cincinnati and the Raiders. Well, holy cow, that lived up to expectations. As we talked about, it is possibly the closer of the matchups to the most interesting one. That definitely did not disappoint as well, too. The Bengals look like they're about to flood it early, but the Raiders, as they've done ridiculous amounts of time this season, kept it close and gave Carr the ball with a chance to win. When Kelsey and I were on the call, we looked at each other like, this is going overtime, isn't it? Here we go. This is going to overlap right into the next game we're going. This is going to be a fun one. And then he marches them right down the field, but they just stagnate inside the goal line. It was an incredible game, an incredible performance by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase as well, too. The young kids coming out after a 3-decade drought. Look out for the Bengals. I think the toughest matchup for them in the AFC really was the Patriots, and they're obviously out of it now. So Bengals can mess with anybody as well, too. And I think everybody else in the AFC is looking at like, damn, do we want that smoke? I mean, I don't know about that now. I think everyone's getting a little bit nervous now as well, too. So look out for them. Then the Bills-Patriots, there's not a whole lot to say about that one besides, oh my goodness. What Josh Allen pulled off was, I could have trouble doing that in Madden. And I fancy myself pretty good at Madden. And even I have trouble doing what he pulled off there as well, too. More touchdowns than incompletions. Nearly 100 yards rushing on top of it. Devin Singletary, looking like the Devin Singletary that we have been punching we've been trying to break our own tables for asking for. Right. We didn't jump through them. We just kind of hit them a lot. So honestly, that was a virtuoso performance. And everybody, and I know I just said this about the Bengals, but that Bills team, nobody's beating that Bills team. The Bills team we saw yesterday, absolutely nobody's beating, despite whatever objects got thrown onto the field whatsoever. That's a whole nother scenario. But that was an incredible performance by them as well, too. And as a Bears fan, Zach, I'm telling you right now, Brian Daboll should be at the top of your head coaching list after what you've seen him turn Josh Allen into. He should be, if not 1A, 1B. He needs to be at the top of that list. And Chicago needs to slide a blank check under his front door and be like, hey, guy, what's going on? What's good?
Luckily, they are interviewing him. So I've been wanting
him and offer them their kids, their wives, the entire city of Chicago, the key to the city, Lake Huron, whatever you want to offer, and they need to be his right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the firstborn child. I don't know if I want the Bears' firstborn child, to be fair. But
if Brian Daboll's the coach, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I gotta say, I'm gonna start with the Buffalo game. Where's this run game been the entire time with Devin Singletary? On top of that, getting him involved in the passing game the last couple of weeks really, I feel like, set this up for Josh Allen to be comfortable enough to dink and dunk it all game long. And he kind of frustrated Bill Belichick. DJ, you talked about it on the call last night. Number one way to frustrate a Bill Belichick offense, actually take what's given. Don't second guess it. Just take what's given. Josh Allen did that ad nauseum plus some. I mean, coming out in the third quarter and throwing that absolute rocket to Dawson Knox where he gets tackled at the 1. That was the stupidest play I've ever seen, first of all. And that just accumulated after all of the rest of the game and everything else he was doing. It was like, oh, well, he can take a shot over the top off his back foot. That's normal. And it just happens to be Dawson Knox one-on-one with J.C. Jackson. And who would have thought Dawson Knox wins that matchup in any
Right.
way either? So the Bills, we talked about it before the playoffs. If they can get a modicum of a run game, they got a good one. I said it on TSS earlier yesterday when we were doing their draft special. Dude, if you got 60 yards from Devin Singletary, you were happy. Like you were going to win the game. You got almost 100 yards from that man on the ground, and you saw how dominant they could be. With a run game, that team, like, who do you stop if they have a run game? Really, like, I literally am at loss for words for who you're capable of stopping in that situation. If for anybody facing the Bills going forward,
The answer to that is you hope Josh Allen throws a pick just getting greedy. That is your defense's hope.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you're exactly right. Like you hope Josh Allen goes back to Josh Allen of his rookie year. You know, that wild card, like sling it up type of guy. But man, going to Cincinnati and that Las Vegas game, Las Vegas did absolutely everything they could to win the game except for scoring in the red zone. I mean, that's at the end of the day really where that game was kind of won and lost. And you know, first of all credit to Las Vegas for even getting there. But Cincinnati, I mean, that team is too young and too naive to lose. It feels like they just don't care. Like they're just like, you know what? We only know winning from our college days. So we're just going to keep that going. So you guys are just going to have to accept that. That's what this feels like. It's just a bunch of young guys that are really good and have been good their whole life that don't know anything about losing. So I don't know. That's a fun team to watch, though. I will say Cincinnati.
It's kind of crazy.
I think they're very sorry, and I know we're all giddy about them for sure, and it's because the youth aspect of Cincinnati really makes them entertaining and fun to watch. You know, I mean, Joe Burrow has got his own mystique around him now in year 2, and come out as really a superstar level talent, and now confirmed this year with so many of those 500, 450 plus yard games he had. And then Jamar Chase, I mean, we don't even need to say much anymore. Guy's already one of the top in the league in his rookie season, setting records for rookie numbers. I mean, what else do I have to mention? It's a watchable roster. It's a very entertaining roster, and it's one that it was streaky at times during the season, but if you get the hot streak right, and they've beaten some of the tops in that conference already, it's not completely impossible to see them running a table as one of the lower seeded divisional winners.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I was going to pile onto that as well too is going back to even his college days. Joe Burrow in his last, I think it was 7-8 must-win type games, whether it's college football playoffs, SEC championship, that win to get against Chiefs. He has more than 1,000 yards passing, well over 1,000 yards passing, and 27 touchdowns and no interceptions. Like, he has an incredible season in just must-win games in his last 2 seasons where he's playing for something. That's absolutely incredible as well, too. And he might be the coolest quarterback in the league as well, too. You saw him in that post-game press conference with those shades as well, too, and that classically slicked hair with the little curls as well, too. He might be the coolest guy, coolest quarterback you have as well, too.
He's the blonde Clark Kent.
Oh, there you go.
I said it. The nerd in me couldn't stop myself. It's the little curly Q thing in the front. It's just like, dude, stop it. That's not fair. We all can't look that good. But not just that. Like, the man looks good and plays good. It's just not a fair combination. Like, well, what about for the rest of us simpletons?
Must be that Southern Ohio.
I get made fun of for having eye bags, man. This dude doesn't get made fun of for nothing.
And he does make a mistake, like throws an interception, he literally has, you call it the memory of a goldfish. As soon as the next play comes out, he has already completely forgot about it, which is the ultimate thing for especially a young quarterback as well, too. So Bengals' future is looking bright, and the present is not exactly dim either as well, too. It's a bright, sunny day in Cincinnati. Probably not literally, but figuratively, at least.
Yeah, the Queen City's probably a little bit cloudy right now.
And if it isn't, they probably can't even see that it's cloudy because there's a whole lot of celebrating going on.
They're having a good time. I want one point from the season that I'm gonna eat my crow for here. I actually was having doubts about, for example, Trey Hendrickson being signed over to the Bengals. I was worried that was a bit of a reach for a signing. Dude has paid off dividends and is now one of the cornerstones of that defense already in his first year. That has been one of the main reasons on the defensive side they have taken such strides as they can get pressure better. And that secondary has been holding up a lot of times too. It's a somewhat rounded roster, just as hot and cold. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they go farther down the line past the super wild card. Divisional is going to be fun, whoever they're facing. And we will get to those matchups later on. One last thing I want to touch on here, because we can't really do a news segment without talking about the folks that are outside of the playoffs, those looking to revamp their rosters, those that are saying, yep, your coaches are kicked to the curb. Black Monday did come and go, and we've had a few other firings since then that were a little more time release, I would call it, in the way that they were let go. For example, you had David Culley, Joe Judge, Brian Flores. They were all let go in later stances. We had other ones, though, that were on the day of or even day before Black Monday. I already know Matt Nagy, for example, he's gone. Mike Zimmer, they played in the same game. I called it the Dead Bowl. They were both gone after that, giving him pink slips leaving USA Bank Stadium. Vic Fangio out. John Gruden we already knew, and of course Urban Meyer. So we have all these of course firings that are gone, right? And then other GMs, for example, too. For the Vikings, the Bears, they both have one that they got to look for. Yeah, it's kind of a busy Black Friday and such that has come and gone.
Black Monday,
and a few
Black
of them
Monday.
have been.
Let's not taint the good name of Black Friday.
There is nothing good about Black Friday, depending on where you're at. Some of those are just as bad in some areas.
My heating blanket and my fancy weighted blanket say otherwise.
Did you wait in line for those?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
Like a smart person, why would I ever go and wait in line during? That's just silly.
That is Cyber Black Friday or Cyber Monday early on.
So whatever. You know what? Don't take the name of the day that gives me a weighted blanket. That was a happy day.
Well, we're just going to round this back out to a whole lot of coaches getting fired as well, to a couple of interim coaches sitting out there, which one of them I can understand if they don't keep, but one of them, it's going to be an absolute mistake if they don't keep him. And that's the Raiders. They should not be looking for a head coach. I think they got their guy. And if they try to replace him with somebody else, the going right back to a 19, that streak of not winning playoff games is going to pick right back up real quick.
Yeah. Look, Bisaccia has done one heck of a job. I will say congratulations for the Raiders to get this far. Nobody thought you made it. You would make it. Like, period, point blank. That's all that needs to be said. And the fact they made it, and the fact they were competitive, I mean, that's the cookie on top, right? Like, that's just everything else you could ask for plus some. And credit some of that to Carr, credit some of that to Bisaccia, though. I mean, you have to lead as an interim coach, and he did the job. I mean, that you literally everything you could do as an interim with the name interim in your name, you have done and excelled at it. So, got to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should definitely keep his job. The fact that they even got to 10-7 and were able to qualify for the playoffs, and the fact that you have a one-score game, and this roster's playing for their coach, and this roster, I think, has learned through a lot of rough times this season that they can rally around each other pretty well. It's been impressive at times. Derek Carr, one of his best years as a pro. He's not going anywhere. I think that they adjusted their offense and got stars that came out later in the year that you can say you can build that roster around now. Zay Jones, again, as we even saw in Super Wildcard Weekend, he keeps to making of himself a presence more and more. He went from a kind of a walk away type of a star that got walked away from Buffalo, and now here he is in Las Vegas, and he might be playing himself into a better term with them. I like this roster, and I like what Rick Bisaccia has done, at least to keep these guys together. I'm curious to see what they decide on. I know Mark Davis was saying he didn't want to touch anything during the playoffs, but now that time has come, so we'll be hearing a lot more of the evaluations from there. But he definitely deserves at least a reasonable shot to get an interview and possibly keep his position just for that type of year you have to go through.
Yeah. I would say I think the only way you don't keep your job is if, like, all of a sudden, you get an offer that Bill Belichick wants to come coach the Raiders. Like, at that point in time, you're like, okay, yeah, sorry, I got.
It's not you, it's me.
Like, would you like to be his assistant?
Once in a lifetime. I can't pass up. I'm sorry, Rick. We gotta pull the trigger on it.
That's how good of a job. Like, I'm literally pulling something out of a hat that would never happen. Like, that's how good he has been this season. So I honestly, all credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Two jobs I want to highlight before we move on, and ones that I think they made the most conversation, just for why they were let go, or people going, man, you got to be kidding me. Brian Flores and David Culley. A lot of people have been talking about them. Culley was going to be, when he was hired on in Houston, a lot of people looked at him as kind of a most likely one and done. But there were a lot of sympathetic words that were being around social, just talking about, did he really deserve to be let go? 4 wins, the situation you're put into, and he did the best he could PR-wise to handle everything that was thrown his way. Meanwhile, Flores, interesting. Initially, a lot of people on his case However, more and more has come out in recent days that might point towards reasons why they let him walk. Specifically, we go back to the Tua Tagovailoa situation. Guys, if you want to tackle one or the other, feel free as we're wrapping up the news. But I mean, both of them were kind of the most talked about for releases, I think, out of the coaching staff that was let go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with Coley. I can say enough about Brian Flores. I've said I feel like my share about Brian Flores and how I think obviously that's just a differing of mindsets there, and at the end of the day, which so be it. But with Coley, I feel like he did the best with the terrible hand he could possibly be given. And by the way, they didn't even finish with the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you made Davis Mills look good.
Yeah.
And you somehow beat teams that you shouldn't beat. And you didn't finish with the number 1 pick. I think that might be why he got fired, is because they didn't finish with the number 1 pick. Like, honestly, like you did too good. I'm sorry, but you're too good to be a Houston Texan head coach. That's what it feels like. I mean, an organization that's, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their plan is. But you don't just fire a guy if you didn't have a plan. And so here's my question: is who are they going out to get? Who is the number 1 target that they're trying to bring into Houston? Because they're obviously going to try to probably somehow keep Deshaun and then draft everybody else. Like that. I'm sorry, but if I'm coming in as a head coach and I know Deshaun is leaving, I don't want to go to Houston. Period. I don't want that opportunity because there's not a whole lot in Houston to root for right now.
I will say what's kind of interesting to note is they won 4 games this last year. They won 4 games the previous year with Deshaun and Brandon Cooks and all the same thing. So they almost had a lateral move, as weird as it was. So, and I liked what Davis Mills did. So I think he earned a chance of the second year. So a new coach maybe likes Davis Mills. And if you can get Deshaun Watson traded, say that thing plays out to where he's actually tradable, you're going to get a pretty nice haul from him as well, too. So you'll get it. Whoever does come in, they get a chance to kind of like what Miami and Brian Flores did a few years ago, where they traded everybody. We're like, what are you doing? We got a chance to rebuild the entire roster in your name. So if they can get that to play along, that'd be great. But that would, new head coach has to basically like, look, I'm not dealing with that whole nother year of will he play or will he not play. You either get rid of him somehow or we are playing it. Like the whole, he's inactive and just kind of sitting there. The new head coach definitely is not going to have to deal with that for a whole nother year.
And that's the problem is when is his merchandise basically going to be usable, right? Like when is he going to be usable as trade bait for bringing in a haul, or when can you cut him? Because I'm sorry, I don't want a guy with that type of a presence sitting here at my facilities day in and day out while I'm trying to reach up this second-year quarterback in Davis Mills. And on top of that, like, it's just not good for morale, man. Like, that's like that's the ultimate, like, bummer to morale.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we've been seeing more and more, and I know they're not all mainstream, but there's rumors going around, again, speculation type of stuff, but still rumors have to be discussed that, Deshaun Watson, who Brian Flores, it sounds like more and more wanted in Miami, maybe they're tied at the hip for wherever Brian might go. Brian is one of the hottest candidates right now on the head coaching market and one of the only candidates for Houston. I'm not saying that they're going to get him in Houston because but right now Flores is one of the main guys they're targeting other than Gerard Mayo for those head coaching positions. So maybe Houston gets its way and I don't know, maybe somehow Flores convinces them to keep Watson. I don't know how that would work, but otherwise you might see Deshaun move wherever Brian goes if he even gets hired on.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, that's for sure as well, too. I can't wait for the offseason. Can't wait for it. We're not even through the postseason yet.
Yeah, exactly. We got to get through the postseason here, and we got to get through more of this show to get to those other postseason picks. Let's get into the second quarter, ladies and gentlemen. Jumping on in here is DJ's going to get his quarter that we always get. It is DJ's best bets here and some other ones that we might have. A little bit of a smaller week of games, of course, and we already have passed by 2 of them. I mean, we can hear what DJ has to say about those, and maybe just hear what you say about Sunday and Monday Night Football.
Absolutely. We're going to keep this relatively quick here today. Just taking a look at last week, what we did. We went 3-3. The ones we did hit, Colts getting 15.5 over Jacksonville. Well, Jacksonville covered that the other way as well, too. So that was an easy win. Then the Ravens getting 3.5 over Pitt. The Steelers covered that one. Chicago, plus 200 underdogs. They kind of let down on that one as well, too. Titans versus Texans at 42. Take the over. We hit that one. Bills, Jets take the over. Somehow that one didn't hit. Neither offense fully showed up until the fourth quarter. Bills. Then Seahawks at Cardinals. We said take the under. Did not expect both teams to come out high flying. I expected them both to be ball control. Instead, the Seahawks pretty much routed them. So we went 3-3 in that last one. overall on the season, we finished with more money made than we lost. So a pretty good regular season as far as the betting goes as well, too. Now looking at the playoffs now. Tampa Bay getting 8.5 over Philly in very questionable weather, a lot of injuries to the Bucs receivers and whatnot. Philadelphia coming in on an absolute tear running the ball. Take Philly to at least cover that. Even if Tampa Bay wins handily, I think that will be kind of like their first match where Philly was able to close in the gap, and the final score was closer than the game actually was. 8.5 is a pretty big spread, so give me Philadelphia to at least cover that. Kansas City getting 12.5 over Pittsburgh. If I'm feeling pretty good, I will take that just because Kansas City has been egregious at covering the spread this year. And they'll jump out early on somebody like up 14-0, 17-3, something like that. Then they'll just chill the rest of the way and kind of let the other team get back into it and then just win late. They've done that a lot this season, just kind of very lackadaisical. Granted, they blew the brakes off Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. So if you're feeling pretty good, I'd look at that one because 12.5 is a big spread. But I personally think I'm going to stay off of that one, but it's something to take a look at as well, too. And now looking at AZ's a plus 166 underdog. Not very huge odds because you're not going to get very huge odds in most of these playoff games. But considering with Arizona, Nuke is supposed to be coming back as well, too. James Conner, Chase Edmonds, going against, once again, the Rams for the third time. That's an interesting one. I might consider dropping a little bit on that one because Arizona's an awfully good underdog as well, too. Now look at the over-unders. Cowboys, 49ers at 51. I'm going to take the over. The Cowboys in the playoffs they find a way to stuff the stat sheet. Whether they win or lose, they find a way to get going offensively. Either the Cowboys are going to flood them with their offense, or this is going to be very, very back and forth. I don't see this being a low-scoring game by any means. Too much firepower on both sides. Rams, Cardinals, 49.5. I'm going to take the under, which is kind of blasphemous to think, but I think we're going to see a lot of ball movement, but a little bit of stagnation in the red zone. I think we're going to see quite a few field goals. I think we're going to see Matt Gay kicking a lot of field goals as well. I think we're going to see the Cardinals, the self-inflicted wounds that have really hurt them down the stretch of the season with the holdings once they get moving, those sort of things. So look for it to be a high-flying type of game, but relatively mitigated points to 24, 21, maybe 24, 23, something weird like that as well. So 49.5, just take the under. Chiefs Steelers at 46. I'll take the over, but I really won't like it because I'm worried it's going to be 30-3 again or something ridiculous like that. If I have to pick, I'm going to take the over in that one because I think the Chiefs have a strong chance at flooding them. So not a whole lot to bet on this week, but there are some good ones. And as we get farther along into the playoffs with fewer games, we'll start looking at some prop bets and things out to fill it out as well, too. See if you can win some extra money with fewer games. But that's what I'm looking at this week. Not a whole lot that really catches the eye. Like, I want that.
Well, I disagree because I'm going to look at a prop bet right now that's continued to pay out. That is the tight end scoring first prop bet. Last night, both tight ends, Dawson Knox, and in game 2, and then in game 1, you had why is my brain trying? CJ Uzoma catching the first touchdown passes. It is a trend in the playoffs in the wild card weekend that tight ends catch first touchdowns for one of the teams. Now, do I think it's going to happen in every game coming up today? No, but I think Gronk has a great opportunity to be touchdown number 1 for the Bucs Eagles game. And then I do think in Dallas, you have a great chance of having Dalton Schultz there as well. And Kansas City, obviously, I actually think this one's going to be a Steelers scoring first, Pat Freiermuth situation, which continues those 3 trends of tight ends looking at scoring first. And honestly, they pay out pretty well for prop bets. So I'm not going to say parlay them together because let's not risk all your money at one time, but at least solo betting those prop bets, not a bad option whatsoever.
I'm just imagining a all tight ends prop or type of parlay that you're going back to back like that. And you look at the roster for some of the best tight ends in the league are playing for Super Wildcard. Really, you could argue top 3 of these are top 5 already. With at least we got Gronk, Kittle, Kelsey all playing here as well. You got fancy darlings like you're talking Schultz this year, who's in there. So I mean. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
kind of fantasy darling.
But you watch, someone is going to put that in. They'll look at these rosters and go, Jesus, look at all this amazing tight end talent. Might as well throw one together, right?
This is what I saw yesterday. Is somebody did it yesterday for the game for Dawson Knox and CJ Uzoma, plus 1,500 odds for Uzoma to score the first touchdown hit, plus 1,200 odds for Dawson Knox to hit that one hit, and he parlayed them together. Ends up winning $240,000 on a $100 bet. Like. It's a simple bet. If you throw $10 at it, you have a chance to win an insane amount of money if you parlay them together. Personally, I don't like parlaying them together because I never win parlays. I don't. And I feel like the majority of people don't win parlays either. But for a simple prop bet, adding on to something longer for that game, definitely a good option.
I I had a great joke I saw this week on parlays where you have a guy who's not really a betting fan. He goes, "Oh wow, you won 5 of 6 games. That's great." And you have the dude banging his head on, on the desk. He's like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
That's me. That is me whenever I do a parlay. Yeah,
That's what I was just imagining.
DJ can attest to it. How many times I've yelled and screamed when I see a game that I'm betting on, and it's just like, I mean, it ties or something, like it's like a hockey game or soccer match that ends up tying instead of winning. I'm so mad.
There's no bad beats around here, okay? I don't want to end up having stuff on late night ES Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt.
Look, there was a reason why when I made my initial deposit back, I pulled it all out, my initial deposit. So that way then I'm playing with house money. That was what I learned.
Of course. Of course. My only thing here, I don't have really any differing things on the slate. The only one I'm saying, and this kind of goes into my pick later, is I actually got +3 for San Francisco instead. I don't know. I'll save on my pick on my discussion on those picks when we get to that point. But otherwise, I mean, all the other situations that were being listed, of course, in this slate, I'm kind of in the same vein. So not much else to talk about with that.
The only nice thing my mom has ever said about it.
Nice.
Shout out to you, Mom.
Gotta love it. Great audience participation. Thank you very much. Yeah, Lordy. All right.
On that note, that'll take us to halftime.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, that's a good note. We'll go into halftime. We'll step on the other side here as we're gonna continue our series of best ofs for fantasy and give you our picks for Super Wildcard Weekend. Don't go away. We got plenty to talk about around the corner. Welcoming you back in to 4th and 4 out of halftime. We are going to be jumping into quarter 3. I wanted to bring up one quote that just our buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you saw this one too?
Yeah. So here's the deal with the tight ends thing. If you did Schultz, Gronk, and Kelsey, a parlay in FanDuel right now between the three to have all first touchdowns in their games is a plus 57,500. So you can win $5,750 if you were to bet 10 just on that to land.
Hey, DJ, you want to drive to Michigan real fast? We can go drop $10 on the FanDuel app real fast.
You can drive over to Indiana if you want.
Let's go casually roll up and see if we can come back with about 5,000% more money than we left with.
Hey, look, man, all I got to do is place the bet in Michigan and then drive back home and then just go and pick it back up tomorrow. Like, I think that might be. I might do it for $10. Like, this. That's just what I'm talking about. Like these prop bets, you can throw $10 at them and win an insane amount of money in the playoffs. I feel like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to kill you. Is it's going to be 3 tight ends in all those games right now, but it's going to be 3 different tight ends. Somehow it's going to be like Cameron Brate, Blake Jarwin, and Blake Bell or something ridiculous like that.
1,000% correct. It would be fucking Blake Bell that gets that would be the one that kills me. Blake Bell would be the one that would be like, yeah, I get the other 2 right, and it's Blake Bell of all people in the Belldozer package doing that little stupid spin he does from under guard to under center, snapping the ball and scoring the first touchdown. That would be exactly how I lose that parlay. You're exactly right, DJ.
You aren't banging.
Even better, Blake Bell will throw a touchdown to somebody not named Travis Kelce as well.
To Patty.
Yeah, just everything possible to spite you at that point.
That's where you're slamming your head through that brick wall
checked in as a tight end.
Yeah, like exactly. Like I mean, honestly, everything that could go wrong would go wrong in that situation.
Now, if you want me to go up and make the bet, I will go ahead and do that because I do not have the 1-leaf clover on me when it comes to betting like you do.
Yeah, we might. You might need. I'll drive. You can. You make the bet.
All right, we got it.
Thanks to our buddies at Fired Up for bringing that to our attention. If you have a feeling for it, sure, go ahead. We aren't advising it, but why not? The odds are insane.
And if you like Philly sports, definitely go check them out as well too. You definitely don't want to miss out on their contest as well too. If you like anything to go along with Philadelphia, definitely go check them out as well too.
Oh, I mean, look, if the Eagles pull this one off today, you can guarantee that's all they're going to talk about, and it's going to be amazing. And I've tuned into a couple of episodes. As a Cowboys fan, it hurts me sometimes because they start talking about the Eagles. But at the same time, I respect it. I respect Philadelphia fans because of all the crap they have to go through.
One might say they'd be fired up if the Eagles won.
You might say that. You might say that.
You
Think on
might be right.
that dad joke we are going to go in here.
Quarter number 3 is here. Fantasy awards. Last week we did like our mid-round awards. Although I'll be honest, I kind of muddled a few because we're doing our waiver wire heroes for this one. Everyone that our top guys that were picked off the waiver wire, you didn't draft them. They stayed there for the free agent market for anyone to grab during the season. And maybe they became a starter at some point in the year to where they helped you either get to the playoffs, they helped with your playoff aspirations, or maybe at the end of the season, they gave you a championship with just how insane their numbers were. I'm going to give you the one that stuck out to me the most there's 2 of them for the end of the season, but I'll stay with one just so I don't feel like I'm robbing you guys because I do this every now and then. Rashad Penny at the end of the year finally came into his own. And my goodness, we're talking about a guy that was rattling off easily 110, 120 a game within the last 3 game stretch of the season. Dude was looking to play himself into at least another better role than he has been, living up to his aspirations as a first-round draft pick that he needed to. If you grabbed him on the waiver wire, I mean, he was injured at the beginning of the season, so obviously most people, even if they did draft him, which probably wouldn't because Chris Carson's there, and Penny hadn't really shown he was going to overtake him at times. That was definitely your guy at the end of the year. If you had him on waiver wires, he helped you get a little bit of a bump over the edge. I did get lucky and grab him on one team, and I will say it paid off dividends, at least for my garbage playoff rounds, because I didn't make the playoffs, I believe, in a few of my leagues. So
you finished behind me in the sleeper league.
Yeah, well, once the toilet bowl hit, I'm sorry, I ain't playing for a top spot, so I keep it going, and I put too much stock in 7 leagues this year, so that's gonna be cut back next season.
I still don't get how you did that.
Anyway. Oh, it's dumb. It was dumb. Should have never done it. But no. Rashad Penny paid off in one of them, so I'll gladly take that.
I'd be drafting 7 of these same exact teams just so I know exactly what players in what league. Like I'd be like, no, I know exactly where he is. I've changed him out in every league. Like that's the only way I can keep track. I don't have that type of brain power anymore.
No,
too old.
No. But he'll be less next year. But that's only one. There's many others. And again, I feel like I stole one. Every time I do this start, I worry about stealing. So I'll wait and see if I did that. One of you go ahead now.
I was like, I'll go ahead, and I'm going to stick with my 2 that I've talked about ad nauseum, and I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing them. That is Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, talk about he literally didn't get drafted because everybody's like, Blake Jarwin this, Blake Jarwin that. Well, Blake Jarwin went down with injury, and Dalton Schultz turned himself into a top 10 tight end. I picked him up in week 4. I loved every single moment. He replaced Noah Fant for a good stretch of my season where it was just absolute domination from Dalton Schultz. Fantastic. He actually finished above Noah Fant by the end of the season, which I didn't think was possible. But I loved every moment of it. That was that's my waiver wire hero just because he won me a few games. But now the one that I love and that I didn't actually have a chance to pick him up by the end of the season, but this is Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy for most leagues did not get picked up during the draft. If you had a deep enough league, like a 16-team league, you probably ended up squeaking him out in the last couple of rounds. But for the most part, everybody else in 10-team leagues were looking at him in the waiver wire through about week 4, and then somebody finally took the shot and picked him up, and I'd say it's safe they did not regret that decision at all, unless they benched him the entire last 8 weeks, in which case you didn't watch the show, did you? Because I kept talking about the Lions and Amon-Ra St. Brown week in and week out during that stretch.
Yeah.
So give me those 2 as my waiver wire heroes because, well, frankly, I can't think of 2 better that I looked at and tried to consider picking up for my teams.
It's not too bad. I'm looking at mine. One of them, you can make the case for Dawson Knox because in my league, he wasn't drafted. In other ones, he was drafted late. So that's like a half one. So you get 2.5 years. The other one I'm looking at is actually a defense. And I'm looking at the Cowboys defense, a defense that most teams did not draft. No one was looking at the Cowboys like, I want to pick them for fantasy football. Yeah, I can't wait after what they've done the last few years. Well, they were tied for, if I'm not mistaken, tied for the lead, or if not second in takeaways. And they got a buttload of sacks, Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs alone. Even if you grab just those players, if you have a fantasy league with players, they were incredible. And that defense as a whole, very underrated pickup. If maybe you picked them up after week 1, just like, I need a defense, or week 2, they worked out for you down the stretch. They had plenty of games where they absolutely flooded their opponents with that defense. So the Cowboys defense, an underrated potential fantasy pickup. And as a player, I'm looking at Elijah Mitchell, a running back for the 49ers. mostly because I'm a guy who drafted not only Raheem Mostert but Trey Sermon in one or two leagues, and neither one of them got any burns, or got injured. So Elijah Mitchell was a guy in the 49ers. He was that run game when he was healthy, and when he was clicking, that team was absolutely fantastic and won more games than they lost. When he's dinged up and not 100%, well, that's when things got a little bit shaky. So Elijah Mitchell, a guy that basically was like Raheem Mostert a couple of years ago, what he ended up being. But we all thought Trey Sermon would be this year. But unfortunately, Trey Sermon never quite got out of the Shanahan doghouse, it felt like. So Elijah Mitchell was my player fantasy, a waiver wire hero this year, with Cowboys defense as a surprise pick as well.
Not bad.
No, I like that for sure.
Sticking with running backs, how about Michael Carter before his injury too? Someone that you'll be looking for next season. I think that will have much more an impact for the Jets, have a little bit more balance at least. I know that they hit an injury bug kind of mid-stretch, but Carter was getting you some decent numbers and was a fantasy pick that for at least 3 weeks, people were going, okay, by week 3, it's like, you haven't picked him up, you need to now. It's like last chance, starting to hit his stride. So someone next year that I'll be looking for, I think that his stock you won't be missing on at some point. He'll be there for you. You'll be taking him in the draft this coming 2022.
Well, let's also not forget James Robinson went undrafted in a lot of leagues because of the statement from Urban at the time that Carlos Hyde will be our bell cow. And then Travis Etienne will also be in the backfield. And everybody's like, I'm sorry, what? And so he actually went undrafted in a lot of leagues, including our sleeper league, Zach. He actually went undrafted until I think, then he got picked up after the draft by you. Yeah.
That was me. Yeah.
So I was like, James Robinson, a guy that finished top 5 in rushing last year, for a lot of people turned into a fantasy darling again this year, that for a different reason this time. But he didn't give you the same stats, but he gave you stats. Like he was a capable starter most weeks. So, it's obviously it's for Jacksonville, but a guy that's worth at least a mention of, well, this guy wasn't absolutely terrible.
No, I would say that he lived up to. I mean, the Travis Etienne injury, that ended, knocking his season out. I think that, it helped a ton. But I mean, I feel bad because it's like you wonder what his season could have been if he hadn't been fighting essentially Urban Meyer week in and week out for numbers. Like, can you trust me yet? Like, I ran for 1,000 yards last year as an undrafted free agent, or undrafted free agent, coming in. What else do I need to prove to you? Like, I'm already a hard enough worker. I got to fight off ETN. Now you're going to tell me Carlos Hyde, who is like the journeyman of a running backs by any man's definition.
He is Tyrod Taylor in the running back position.
Yeah, it's like, well, I trust you because it's Ohio State. Like, okay, but like, what about your NFL production? Like, let's not live on past marks here.
Exactly.
So we actually got a comment from Colorcast here from Vic25 here saying Patterson was a good waiver wire pickup. He missed out on him in his league. So if your league did not draft Cordell Patterson, our sleeper league actually ended up drafting him. He was a late round guy in our league, and then we actually mentioned him last week on our late round darlings, and he was probably the winner of that besides Cooper Kupp. It was Cordell Patterson and Cooper Kupp in that one,
and James Conner.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But he definitely fits in that for a lot of teams that did kind of pass up on him as well. To anyone who got to just pick up Cordell Patterson for free, good for you, you son of a gun.
I hope you're in a dynasty league and you can keep him because check mark if he stays in Atlanta, you're keeping actually anywhere he goes now. It's at this point in time you're kind of keeping him for the long haul. So I don't see why not. That's a heck of a pickup though. I'm so jealous. Like some of these leagues, man, I need invites to them. Like I might go in 7 leagues next year if I get invites to some of these leagues where some great players send up in the waiver wire as long as they do.
Oh my God. So you get to that point, you get too many, and then you have some of them that are like, you start losing track of how certain players went. Like my issue with 7 leagues is like you'll be in a league and the typical like the regular thinking of like getting a running back doesn't always apply. And so some people, what they'll do is that they'll be that dude that jumps up to like number 4. And they'll take like a Mahomes or something early, and then it starts a fire sale. So then you have to rethink your planning and your strategy in the draft because the fire sale starts and all those pieces start falling. You're like, oh my God, now I have to worry about that. I know that fantasy's more specialty players with the quarterback being that cornerstone. You hope to get the big numbers every week. But my God, if that starts going, or say you have just one position get a run on it, everyone's got to run it. It's like the stock market in a way, but on draft day in the snake format.
I've learned I don't readjust my draft strategy and that's my own fault. Like I probably don't win as many leagues as I probably could if I readjusted draft strategy. But I've gotten tired of it. Like I'm gonna let them go fire sell on their position that they want to go fire sell. I'm gonna go pick the number one receiver. I'm gonna go pick the number one running back. I'm gonna go pick the number one tight end while they're all trying to buy into these quarterbacks and then catch back up to what I'm doing. Like that's my game plan, and it doesn't always work ever for that matter. Like it's worked once, but still, I mean, like one time is better than none, right?
Yeah, that's all it takes. It's all it takes. It's all it takes. It's
strategy. I was going to say, spoiler alert: if you want to beat me in fantasy, just adjust the draft strategy in round one, and I'll never figure it out.
It's all about being level-headed. All right, guys, we're here. It's finally quarter number 4. We're saving a little more time for last because we have a lot of picks today. Well, I guess really one more than usual, but still, we want to get more in depth with these.
We have a little something.
Well, I know. I was getting to that. I know we got something else before we got to get to the picks.
Like the ColorCast plug.
I was going to do that. I'm talking. Oh, I was getting to it. Fine, let me restart it. Quarter number 4, Primetime Pickups presented by ColorCast. I was going to say it. I swear to God, I was going to say it.
Way to go, Kelsey. You ruined the man's
Damn it,
mojo.
Kelsey. Got my mojo knocked off. Whatever.
I apologize, but I
by,
have nothing to apologize for.
It's presented by ColorCast. He doesn't have to apologize. We're giving him a hard time.
I'd like to apologize to absolutely no one.
It doesn't matter.
I apologize to everyone who followed your picks on this season.
Hey.
Well, okay.
Except for last week's, son. What?
Wow, yeah.
Congratulations. You got 1 out of 17
he's
weeks.
Walking off.
I actually ended up winning 4 out of the total 18 weeks with my success. Thank you very much.
And how did the in-between go?
Well, we're going to get to that, actually, DJ. We'll talk about the in-betweens here in a minute. And obviously, that was our last week's strategy. And, yeah, obviously, my mom hitting the ouch button. Thanks, Mom. But, no, so we talk about it. Week 18. These are our results from Week 18. DJ, you came in second, 11-5. Zach, 10-6. Hector, 8-8. And those are important numbers right there. Because if you guys remember, there was a four win gap between DJ and Hector, and Zach was in the middle with 2. Well, just kind of look at that. That's some things happened at the top of that leaderboard, but we'll get to those in just a minute. Just going to go through our season stats here. By the way, we picked 254 games apiece, including Jim's disappearing and including all the games that he did not pick as well. It was a total of 1,270 games that should have been picked. Our total average correct pick with all of Jim's negatives, still 57.6% success rate. Without Jim, over 60% at 63.9, which is huge because if you guys talk about analysts on TV, don't even come close to those numbers. They sit around 54% successfully. Made sure to send a stat to let that be known because now the best single week, Hector 13-2 in week 16, probably the best week by far for any of us.
Yes.
But the worst single week, DJ, and this was when you started your comeback, by the way, was week number 8, 4-10. Both DJ and I went 4-10. And what was the worst week of the season for either of us? I had the next closest worst week at 4-8-1. That was the week the Steelers had to tie with the Lions, which I would have gotten right had the Lions won the game, and I wouldn't have had that as well. But yeah, that was rough. That was a rough stretch right there between week 7 and week 12 for me. And that's where it was not pretty. But DJ, that's where you started your comeback, man.
That's what you and I both had a miserable stretch for like 4 weeks. We had to combine. We had like 15 wins when we combined all 4 weeks. It felt like we were absolutely miserable. But as we talked about with quarterbacks, it's not if you throw interceptions, it's how you handle that adversity as well too. And you know what? I managed to at least make myself a little bit respectable down the stretch, just a little bit. Still was not able to overcome the football guys, but I was at least able to be on the same dinner table as the football guys at the end.
Oh, you're definitely on the dinner table.
Yeah, we'll get to the dinner table here in just a moment. But can I get a drum roll, please, from somebody? All right, that works. The winner of our regular season football pick'em presented by ColorCast is none other than our host, Mr. Zach Kyle, man. In big gold and white letters. I had to make sure to give you the gold here because all that glitters is gold and you got a gold mic. So, sir, this is your moment. You like to say anything? I would like to hear a speech.
I'd like to thank the Academy for its. No, I'm kidding. I will say for Hector, dude. I mean, obviously he is the real. If I'm being honest, he is the football guy. We're talking all the sports, but I appreciate the getting the time to say that. Hey, I read the analysis. I see how these teams play out. I made the picks. I got maybe a little luck here and there, some risk, a lot of safety as well at times. I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad that I got it. Regular season champ, I'll take it. Why not?
Well, I don't feel as bad as being made fun of for my mom. My mom didn't know your name, by the way, now, and she still said it wrong. So now, Zach, your new name is Kyle.
No, a fun story. Some people used to call me Kyle Kyleman because they wanted that to be my name in high school. Not even joking.
This is for our audience to respell his name correctly this time. Mom, it's a Zach Kyleman.
It's Zach Kyleman. Yes, it doesn't. It's phonetically wrong, but that is how you say it. It's not Keelman. Don't say Keelman, please.
Well, Zach, I'd like to officially welcome you to the club of regular season champions with Pick'em. So high five across the way for you as well, too. Bang.
Do I get a jacket? Do I get a membership?
Honestly, we get a fist bump, and we get to just kind of slightly rub it in for the next 365 days.
Okay, that's
you get to laugh at me while I go take the Wonderlic test because I don't know if Jim's going to show up for it.
You and I, DJ, will get a special handshake next time we meet in person. Kelsey's just got to sit there and begrudgingly see that.
But so this is the final standing. Since you guys are going to talk all this smack, by the way, I'm just going to continue through this whole tragedy.
So tight at the top, though,
Yeah, look at how close this was. Like 160. I had to actually go through and count all of the wins individually week by week because originally I had it as a tie between Zach and Hector, and that didn't add up right with the right number of picks. And so I had to go through week by week and count all of the wins and losses on an Excel document to get the right answers here. So Zach, 166 wins, 87 losses, and a tie. Insane. Hector's 165, 88, and 1 for a football guy, normally a soccer football guy, but now in this case, he is now just the football dude. And then DJ with a comeback from the ages at 164, 89, and 1. I mean, very impressive, you guys. I get the participation heart just because I'm here. At 152, 101, and 1. And Jim gets the golden dookie here at number 5 with 82, 155, and 1. Now, unfortunately, the participation award doesn't come with anything either, except for I have to go, actually follow through and take my Wonderlic test that I should have taken last year. Yeah.
I thought that was a corn kernel, not a heart. So, the corn goes.
Oh, it's a participation corn kernel. Then we're gonna call it a corn kernel.
You're a regular Iowan at this point.
Let's take a look at that. Participation corn kernel.
Yeah,
well,
that looks about right.
I like it. I will go with that.
Impressive top 3 just being one game apart each way between each other. That's pretty cool. I like that.
It's better than last season when I was at the top and the next closest was like 8 behind as well too. So at least this one it was competitive as well too. So at least we had a fun time down the stretch. I mean, our top 4 were north of 58% pick percentage, if I'm not mistaken, or was it that was a 63? If I'm not.
No, you guys actually were north of 65%.
That's the top 4, including all four of us.
Oh yeah, all 4 of us. Yeah, we were 63.9%.
Yeah, like that's absolutely phenomenal as well too. If you did bets on just straight winning as following any of ours, you won more money than you lost down the stretch, especially with some of the underdog payoffs.
Those Lions picks down the stretch. Whoa.
They're paying off. Week 18, the whole not sure about rosters and all that paid off for you a lot, I think too. So
yeah. Hey, well, look, let's just continue on now into the chance. I have a chance to win still because right now I'm in the lead, ladies and gentlemen. I am tied in the lead. With our pick'em so far.
It's playoff pick'em time, so now it's a different ball game. That's the thing. I think we have to revisit our points. We had a point system last year. I'm kind of forgetting how that worked right now, but
we're not going to do all that crap.
Whatever. Pick them, you win. You don't pick them, you lose.
All right, dive into it. Let's get this first one underway for Sunday's slate. As we got the Bucks and the Eagles, all of us picking the Bucks. I think there's a lot of mismatch, but let's just talk. How can the Eagles win this one? I think we see how the Bucks can win. It's even with the injuries and dings they got, it's still a pretty loaded roster in most regards. It's a championship roster. It's Tom Brady leading the way. That leadership cannot be understated. How do the Eagles pull this out, though?
For me, it's simple, and it's one thing the Eagles have done surprisingly well this year. I just don't know if they'll be able to do in this game, and that's take the ball away. If they can get multiple takeaways on that offense as well, not stops like forcing punts, like actual legit takeaways, Darius Slay being Darius Slay type things, then I think they have a good chance you can get him short field positions, and Jalen Hurts in that run game will eventually wear on that defense. As great as it is against the run, I think Jalen Hurts can get outside the pocket with the run game, and that can make things more interesting. So you have to win the takeover battle by at least 2. So like 2-0, 3-1, something like that. They have to win it by at least 2 is what I'm looking at for them to win.
Yeah, I mean, that is the way. Really, truthfully, this is the way and how you beat the Bucs. You take the ball away from them, and you get one lucky over the top play. I look at Quez Watkins to potentially take the top off on somebody. They do have still a banged up secondary. Jamel Dean is not fully 100%. Neither is Carlton Davis over there. You worry about that a little bit, especially if you can get Quez Watkins, who is an absolute burner, free on the outside just once, and let Jalen throw it up to him if he gets enough time.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy touchdown that then puts the Bucs on the heels, and that's a potential chance you have there. And if you get in the red zone, between Jalen Hurts, RPOs with Dallas Goedert running over the top of it, it's a tough matchup because you have to worry about the run game, then you have to worry about Jalen Hurts' run game, then you have to worry about Dallas Goedert sitting there in the middle of the field wide open with his 6-foot whatever big body self, and he's not in the state of South Dakota, so you don't have to worry about him getting blindsided by anybody. So it's a potential that the Eagles have and have the potential. It's about the longest shot of the games today, but I do think they do have a potential possibility there, especially if you see Tom Brady we've seen of late where he only gives you a half.
Right. So. Pressure is always helps when it comes to Brady. And I mean, I think that with Philadelphia, it's just a lot of it to me comes down on, can you keep up with the Bucs is how I look at it. I actually I talked with my buddies, Tony and Michael, and Tony actually thinks the Eagles, he's like, hey, this will be the best game possible. It's going to be Jalen Hurts will have one of his best showings of his career. I'm like, maybe. I mean, it's been trending upward. They're here because of an excellent win streak during the end of the season to stretch run it. So, anything's possible. Playoffs are wild, but really it's when you're talking Tom Brady, like we're saying, you got to really smack him in the mouth. You got to get pressure on, make him uncomfortable. You can't have him sit back there. New Orleans has become experts at finding ways to disrupt his flow. And that's even before he became a division rival. He just seems like they know Dennis Allen knows how to get his number. Hopefully they studied a lot on the book of Dennis Allen and finding out what makes Brady skittish and not tick.
Yeah, that would be the smartest option, but we'll see if they do it. Which will take us into the 4:30 game, the Dallas and San Francisco game. This one actually might decide our pick'em this week, considering we are split 50-50 as well. Zach, you went the other way. You and I right now are at the top, Zach. We're both undefeated as of right now, both picking the Bengals and the Bills last night. DJ 1-1, Hector 1-1. So this one really decides it. If Hector and I pull this one off, we take a lead. If Zach, you and DJ pull this one off, well, take a lead, Zach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to tell me why the boys are going to win? It's funny because I know some of us are very pessimistic fans. I know that you do have those things, but hey, I see the boys.
This one was tough. I just think this comes down to quarterback play, and I don't trust Jimmy G and Trey Lance as much as I trust Dak Prescott, which is still not that much. And at the end of the day, I trust the running back core of Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And notice how I say that: Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
Let's be very clear with my order of pick 'em here. I trust them a lot more than I trust Elijah Mitchell and whoever else they're going to throw out there at running back. I do think when you get down to it, Deebo Samuel is going to be an X factor. He's going to get his plays. It's can you limit everything else? Can the pressure get to Jimmy G so George Kittle can't run out into routes, so he has to actually stay in and chip? Because if he's forced to stay in and chip, that takes a weapon away from San Francisco's use. So that's what I'm kind of hoping is Dallas can get that pass rush going, which for all intents and purposes, everybody looks healthy. So they should be good to go. That'll be a very fun matchup, though, to watch against that front line.
I just think Jimmy G's not going to turn the ball over a whole lot, and I think that offensive line is going to wear down the Cowboys' front seven. Really, really good, but a little bit small. So I think if you can run on them and get it started early, you can wear on them as well. I think it'll be back and forth, like I mentioned in the betting. I think it's going to be probably one of the better games of the week, but I think the 49ers have just a few more X factors now that they're healthy as well, too. And I think Trayvon Diggs, for all of his prowess of taking the ball away, he could still get caught in coverage as well, too. And I think we'll see that a little bit more today as well.
Trayvon Diggs, nah.
You mean all pro Trayvon Diggs, by the way?
The
Just thought I'd throw
first
that out
corner
there.
in primary coverage to give over 1,000 yards ups in 20 years.
I also could add on to I think Nick Bosa is going to have a hell of a game as well, too. If they leave him one-on-one, he's the most double-teamed edge player in the NFL by a long shot. And I think the Cowboys, they don't tend to double-team a whole lot throughout the season. They tend to just be like, we trust our tackles for better and for worse. And I think Nick Bosa is going to wreak havoc. Whether it's Tyron Smith, who still somehow a first-team All-Pro or second-team All-Pro, even though it wasn't his best season and he played like 8 games, it felt like. I don't know how they voted that, but that's another story. I think Nick Bosa is going to wreak havoc if the Cowboys do not adjust how they block and double-team him.
That's a lot of it. Elijah Mitchell, to me, kind of ties this together just because of how Kyle Shanahan likes to run his offenses when Jimmy Garoppolo is out there. Garoppolo is better. Garoppolo is very much kind of like a Kirk Cousins in a way where it's, you have a solid run game. You have that team leaning on that. You can then open up all the possibilities with your tools in your receiving arsenal in terms of Deebo Samuel and, of course, George Kittle. I mean, Samuel alone is a multiple purpose threat anyway, so he can open that up. I mean, what's one of the staples of a Shanahan offense? Jet sweeps. That's another running element. But I think Mitchell being fully healthy in ready to go status at the perfect time, that's the key, I think, that helps drive this offense to then open up what they want to do more often. And it helps mitigate some of the turnover potential that Jimmy Garoppolo has, much like DJ is saying. But the Cowboys will give them a fight. I mean, they're in the spot for a reason, guys, and they're a loaded roster. So it should be one of the best contests of today. Moving on, we got another one.
Moving on to probably the worst contest of the day. I feel like this is bye week number 2 for the AFC. I think that's I don't know if you guys agree, but that's my simple answer to why I picked Kansas City.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Good luck in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, foreshadowing when you have Roethlisberger going, we don't have a chance in hell.
Yeah. So
we'll move on to the next one because not a whole lot.
Yeah, moving on to Monday night.
Yeah,
That's a really competitive game.
Yes.
We all still go the Rams.
Although some could argue that this is actually arguably should be the most competitive contest of it. Just looking at the 2 previous matchups, I know Arizona kind of blew out the Rams in LA earlier in the season. Then the second matchup was a 7-point contest that ended in a Kyler Murray drop for a sack on a broken play. Close contest there. The seasons for those 2 have gone in different directions, but they're both still here. Rams taking the division. The Cardinals had it for a majority of the year and kind of stumbled their way into the wild card. I still find this as a very intriguing contest, one that I think will go the Rams' way just because they're clicking on all cylinders right now. Odell has turned himself into a weapon that we were worried wasn't going to pan out. He actually panned out very well. Sean McVay has done a great job getting him in that offense and antiquated. And they also have Cam Akers back. Everything's falling into place, even with Matthew Stafford having interception woes this year, more so than not, or at times. I mean, there's just too much all across the board for the Cardinals to handle, I think.
For me, it's just Arizona stumbled into the playoffs, losing what was like 4 of their last 5 or something like that. They're kind of like what Pittsburgh was last year, and then they were in for a rude awakening, right? I don't think it'll be a butt whooping like that was, but I think you mentioned the Rams are clicking and the Cardinals are stumbling a little bit, and we don't know how healthy Duke is going to be when he comes back out there as well, too. So I think the Cardinals next year will be more of the year we're looking for. This year, a nice stepping stone forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we're going to finally see this Rams defense step up and play like we were expecting, and that's why I picked the Rams. I just think this defense is going to be too powerful. Keeping Kyler in the well, it's going to be too easy. I won't say too easy, but it'll be easy enough for the secondary to stay alive in that situation.
So we're all kind of in agreement. It's the last time we hear Kyler Murray's Mr. Krabs. Like,
yes.
God, please, yeah. I can't do it anymore. Like, I'll wait till the Pro Bowl, and we're gonna make a whole GIF about it and like a meme and everything. Like, you can hear the whole sound. It's gonna be our last episode.
That will be our last episode. That video edit is going to happen at some point. You speak it, it will go into existence. Someone.
It's probably going to be our new intro video or something. Who knows? Or new outro. It's going to be just him running across the screen. Bye.
Just put it in the Cardinals section for a split second with the music, and then just going.
You'll never unhear it or unsee it. Sorry, and not sorry.
Well, everyone, that's going to do it for this week's edition of 4 the 4. We'll be back for the divisional round. Don't go away. We'll have plenty more to talk about. And again, as DJ said, to add in prop bets and things, we got more goodies coming up next week. Enjoy the wild card weekend. The rest of it for Sunday and Monday. And for myself, for DJ, for Kelsey, so long. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next Sunday, guys.